Greetings, I am Toglin, Hell's Harlequin, but you may call me Tog. When you go to a craft fair, holiday bazaar, summer festival, or a convention, you'll notice there's different types of people and groups who vendor such affairs. There are, of course, small businesses who will buy a booth to promote their store to the wider community. Then, of course, you have weirdos like me with no physical store. We jump from event to event selling our wares like filthy gypsies. Then you have those who treat it as a part-time job rather than a full-time job, such as retirees and people who work low-wage jobs who use it as a viable second income. Then of course we have the hobbyist, which used to make up the majority of those you meet at craft fairs. Now it's the pampered chef and essential oils people. But they're not going to be included in our discussion because despite the fact they cover the same events, they work on a different market than the crafting market. Now on to the subject of this video, how do hobbyists harm the crafting market? Now hashtag not all hobbyists do this. However, there's a certain type of hobbyist who only looks at crafting as, well, a hobby. They don't really mean to make any money off of it. So a lot of times they charge barely over the cost of materials because they figure that they'll just simply use these craft fairs and what have you to pay for their hobby. For example, let's say a woman knitted a scarf that took $12 worth of yarn to make, and she decides to sell it for 15 or 16 bucks. Now she thinks, okay, I'm paying for my material as well as I'm making a little bit of profit. Not realizing, of course, that she's not taking into account of the overhead whatsoever, and even if she sells many of these scarves, a lot of the times she's not even paying for her booth costs because a lot of booths cost anywhere between $50 to $300. Whatever price you set on your handcrafted items helps determine the value or worth of that item. So by devaluing your own goods, you are actually devaluing all other goods along that line. One thing to keep in mind when setting price is if you were to hire someone to do the same thing you're doing as a hobby, would you really feel right about only paying them a few cents an hour? Now when it comes to paying yourself hourly, there is always the issue of when you're just starting out, it might take you 4 or 5 hours to do something that an expert it would only take them half an hour to make. In that case, it wouldn't make sense to pay yourself hourly because as your quality goes up, then your prices would go down. If you're new to the crafting market and you're not entirely sure what the minimum you should charge is, and my video just made you more confused, the standard minimum is double material cost if you paid full price retail for them, and 4 times material cost if you bought your materials in bulk. Now the reason for this is when you buy in bulk, usually it takes many items before you make back your material cost. By charging 4 times, you are charging roughly the same as someone who paid full price retail and is charging double. And if it comes out to an uneven number, always round up to the nearest dollar. Never round down, because you'll probably have a lot of hidden expenses you're not taking into consideration, such as if you sew, sewing machine maintenance, booth costs, gas for driving. There's a lot of hidden costs when it comes to this particular profession. Now, I've been doing this for around 10 years. If you want to know my particular formula, I charge $20 an hour, plus I tack on material costs. Some events you won't make much money. There's events where you'll make $5,000 and events you'll make $5. If you're not making money at a particular event, don't be tempted to mark it down. Keep in mind that it might just not be your event. Now you might be wondering, well, even if I do undercharge, how exactly does that harm other crafters? Well, let's go back to the scarf scenario. You're only charging $15 that cost you $12 to make. The booth next to you is also selling hand-knit scarves, and they're charging $25 per scarf. Somebody might like their scarf better, however, when they look at your price, they might think the other vendor is overcharging, when in fact, they're charging a very reasonable price. Now, one very odd thing I've noticed, and this is purely anecdotal, all the vendors I have met who drastically undercharge for their time are always women. Do men simply have a better concept of time as money? I'm not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I wish all of you a pleasant rest of your day.